wanted to talk about a timeline of sorts. Ms. Arias and I were talking about, yesterday we were talking a little bit about the timeline of things, rumors, stories, everything that happened. What I'm going to do is everything from 2018 on, 2017 on. So let's talk about The Force Awakens. The Force Awakens made about $2.3 billion. Okay. But after a while, it started losing its luster because it's a bad movie. Okay. It just really is. I mean, they went after nostalgia and didn't do it the right way. They went after fan service and really didn't do it the right way. They misused and abused Harrison Ford, Carrie Fisher, Mark Hamill. They ripped off A New Hope. It was literally the most lazy storytelling, the most lazy filmmaking I've ever seen in my life. Okay. Now, some people like it, but it's a bad movie. I mean, I like bad movies too, but there are bad movies I like too, but this is a bad movie. So let's talk a little bit more about what happened after. So there were already grumblings. Sequel trilogy merchandise wasn't selling, as well as OT and prequel merchandise. Clone Wars, and before that, they discontinued the EU and they stopped making Clone Wars. Two very popular sections of the franchise's story, okay? They're making money at this. They decided to quit it. Now, why? Well, you look at TFA, and it's basically a Disney princess movie. This is a property that didn't naturally, it was aimed at boys. Not because it's male-centric, but that's just the natural way it happened. Hero's Journey appeals to young men, young boys, and some girls, because I'm a geek and I'm a, tomboy, and I liked it too. It's a very intellectual thing too. When you start peeling the onion and layers back of Star Wars, you realize that the stories are a lot deeper than you think they are. And Disney didn't understand what they were buying. So we have that going. And we have the fact that as time went on, The Force Awakens, the fans were starting to say, this isn't a good movie. I mean, this was, what the hell were they doing? Bitching about Luke only having 30 seconds, the treatment of Han and Leia, their relationship, their characters, no character arc, no development beyond. They were basically back to their A New Hope beginning, which I gotta tell you something, there are people out there that don't believe people change. And in order to make a good story, people grow, characters grow, and they do change. When you see characters devolve in a franchise, it's because the person writing the script, the filmmaker, can't write, can't tell a story. They don't know how to. So we got that going. So, people were excited about The Last Jedi. Rogue One came out, stories started coming out about how bad it was to be on the set. Kathleen Kennedy, this is where she started rearing her ugly head. Got mad at the director, creative differences. Gareth Edwards walked off the set, or she fired him, had somebody else finish it. Rogue One ended up being not a bad movie, despite her. Gareth Edwards actually, I believe, admitted he was the one that added Darth Vader in his hallway scene at the end. Hey, John 42, at the end of Rogue One. The thing that made Rogue One so good was actually the entrance of original trilogy characters. Grand Moff Tarkin. A lot of people didn't like the CGI deep fake of Peter Cushing, but I thought it was great. I literally almost started crying. Okay, it was brilliant. Vader showing up and talking to Krennic and force choking him. The writing in that scene was great. I mean, Vader basically says, don't choke on your aspirations, because Krennic, being a craven weasel, is asking Vader to tell on Tarkin. Krennic doesn't realize is that Tarkin is the Emperor's guy, and he's Vader's guy. And Vader also, it is a weasel thing to do. And if you understand that character, there's still enough Anakin in him to go, what the fuck? Okay, get, here, chew on this, you dipshit. Well, I'm not going to do that for you. You're a failure. You fix this problem, or it's going to get real bad for you. Okay? So Krennic is kind of left there realizing that Vader is not the guy to go, he's not mommy to go crying to. I mean, the whole idea of doing that is, are you nuts? Then you've got the TLJ. TLJ, everybody had hopes for. Rian Johnson saying he was going to, undermine everybody's expectations. We read him wrong. We thought he was going to undermine a group of fans' expectations like the Ray Blows. Instead, we got half-naked Adam Driver, and I wanted to puke. I literally felt nauseated looking at him, because that man is literally the most unattractive man I've ever seen in my life. Marty Feldman is a better-looking guy, all right? He looks like Marty Feldman's love child with a bass, okay? TLJ really, 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 really solidified the fact that the sequel trilogy sucked, and there's no coming back from it, because there wasn't a wherewithal to fix what they broke. And to be honest, after looking at the video by Nerdonymous, hey Cornelius, I gotta say this. I don't think, hey Lucas, I don't think that Rian Johnson necessarily didn't necessarily mean, or didn't necessarily go against Lucas. Don't come in here with your drama. Steven and I are friends, okay? Just keep it to yourself. I'm not in high school, okay? All right? Ryan didn't go against what JJ wanted. I actually now think that. I don't know how much of that was planned, but I don't necessarily think that he went against what JJ wanted. I think he added some things that he didn't want. Lucas, shut up. I don't want to hear about it. I don't really think that he went against anything. I think he added things that weren't needed, like Luke throwing his lightsaber over his shoulder, la-di-da. And killing off Luke was probably not the wisest thing to do. I mean, if you think about that. But the whole movie was just sucked. Fans were outraged. Backlash begins. Good morning, Trayla. Then we go further. Backlash gets more intense. The fans start getting beaten up in the press and by Lucasfilm employees like the infamous Pablo Hidalgo, his wife, and others. Freddie Prinze Jr. starts attacking us. They're basically smear us as alt-right trolls. I don't know any within the fandom. I don't really know any alt-right trolls, but that was their excuse. And when it really started getting bad. They started calling us Russian bots. I want you to wrap your minds around that one. Go further. Then Soylo, a Soy War story, comes out, starring a guy who is a terrible actor who was miscast as Han Solo. He's about 5'7". He's this big. Harrison Ford is 6'1". He's not an attractive guy. He just, I mean, the whole thing was like, oh God, you gotta be kidding me. It was like a really bad cosplayer was cast, and they were complaining about the guy the fans wanted, Anthony Gruber, who basically, to be honest, said he basically was actually being courted and they gave him an offer, rescinded the offer because Spielberg came into Kennedy's office and said, I really want to see Alden Ehrenreich because he's my accountant's son and he's friends with my daughter, get the role of Han Solo. So there we are. Terrible decision on Spielberg's part to even do that, to even get involved. I would start laughing and I would say, no, we have already got our Han Solo. I'm sorry, Steven. So then that happens. Solo loses $250 million. Just want you to wrap your minds around that. Then there's a story out there that even Grace Randolph reported that there was a Lucasfilm combined sort of teleconference. And they were like chimps in a zoo throwing crap at each other, apparently. I believe this because I didn't just hear from her. Everybody heard it about it. It was crazy. Then Pablo Hidalgo leaves Twitter, and we all know that story. He came back later, but he goes off Twitter complaining. Then the rumor comes out that Kathleen Kennedy may be replaced and that they were looking around for somebody new. Hey, Lonely Seth, how are you? And it never happened. Later that year, her contract got renewed. And I was sure they were going to find somebody. They had to. They had to. I mean, what was going on and her incompetence was so above and beyond holy shit that you can't run a company like that. You can't. And there you go, Lonely Seth. You can't. And I'm like, I was just like, you've got to be kidding me. All right. They resigned her for 3 years. Everybody's pissed off. And a lot of us who thought she was gone got shit on by everybody else because everybody needs to be right all the time. I'm sorry, I'm not Bob Iger. Because if I had been Bob Iger, I'd have launched her off the end of my foot. Okay? There'd have been no doubt about who was in charge, by the way. Okay? Anyway, but we did get a rape rave. Chuck Wendig did lose his Darth Vader comic book gig. And we all had a good check all that. Much wine was drunk. Everybody's happy. And then the stories about filming The Rise of Skywalker started coming out. Scenes being reseen, writers being shifted around, scenes being rewritten, and now let's go forward. The stories start to come out after Rise of Skywalker is out there. First off, Iger brings on Jon Favreau. Favreau partners up with Dave Filoni. They start creating The Mandalorian. Basically, what happens is this. Bob Iger has Favreau and Filoni only answering to him. They don't have to worry about Kennedy, apparently. We thought. Kennedy has got whatever she's got going on, the High Republic, and some other shit, but she's pretty quiet. And it looks like, the first season of Mando was pretty good. We all liked it. There's some that didn't, and that's fine. I don't really care. Don't come here and shit on me for liking it. And, you know, it was winning awards, and, you know, it was basically Disney Plus's Vanguard biggest deal. I mean, it was bigger than, you know, Netflix, this big stuff. Okay, this was a big deal. And it looked like Favreau and Filoni, from what Doomcock and everybody else is saying, was thank you, Maze. Good morning. Was finally going to address the problems with the sequel trilogy. And I'm talking about stuff that came out last summer. While Mandalorian was being edited and all the rest of the script after Trials came out. The stories surrounding the filming of The Rise of Skywalker they make me despair. Because there was a way to fix everything, and they didn't do it, not even a little bit. And I think I think it was like August, whatever, and the suits were shown a rough cut of what they did, and Kennedy had a stroke, and then ordered reshoots. They reshot the thing up until October. They reshot literally 40% of the movie. Imagine the budget overhauls. This woman is supposed to be a queen of keeping budgets straight. When? Oh, that was your husband, wasn't it, Kathy? So we have that going on. Everything, you know, that stupid kiss at the end, just to tickle the Reylos' fancy. That was the most awkward, ill-advised, ham-fisted fucking thing I ever saw in my life. I mean, and when he died, when he croaks, I cheered. I was like, thank you. Never come back. You know. And I laughed. I mean, when you watch the video of the Reylos screaming, I started laughing my ass off. It was literally, here you go, but fuck you. But from Lucasfilm. JJ didn't want to do it. All right? I know he didn't want to do it. But, you know, so they do. I know, which was great. So Kathleen Kennedy demands everything gets. Yes, I do think it's true Vader fan. I do. I really, really do. And it's really interesting to me that I'm sitting here, you know, watching all this happen, and we were sure that we were going to get what we wanted. The son of Mortis. Rey finds out she's actually Dipshit's sister. You know, I don't think I'd have tolerated Niece, because that's like, it's way too late. Way, way too late to be doing that. Okay. But it would have worked. Instead, we get Palpatine, the clone, and Palpatine, the Snoke farmer, and Rey Palpatine stealing the Lars family homestead, stealing Anakin's lightsaber and Leia's lightsaber, stealing the Millennium Falcon from Chewie, who is, because there are no solo heirs, because horror of horrors, Disney Lucasfilm couldn't actually have a normal, regular family. That's terrible. Oh my God, that's patriarchal. This is me. Fuck all of you, okay? You know, it was just horror. I mean, it was horrible. And it barely crawled across $1 billion. Stories out saying, well, yeah, they paid for themselves. And then they quote gross box office. What was the net box office? No one, even people who didn't like them, never talk about net box office. Why? That's actually what Disney takes home from this. I know there wasn't. I mean, it was, you and I both know why they changed what they changed. Yeah, I mean, and this was, I don't think JJ could write a story in crayon, to be honest. Anyway, you know, the movies probably didn't make $2 billion. Let's go back to see what Disney actually invested. 4.3 buying Lucasfilm. Another 2 billion, maybe 3 billion building the parks. Lucasfilm, those movies paid for nothing. Let's look at the merchandise sales. Every year, sequel trilogy and everything else that Disney put out under their label that wasn't original trilogy, prequel trilogy, or Clone Wars fell and fell and fell and fell. In fact, you talk to any series collectors, there aren't any sequel trilogy stuff. Very rarely you'll see anything. Oh yeah, John 42. I mean, if there isn't going to be a solo kid, and, you know, we at least got that, you know. So, we got this going on. Kennedy, and this shit's been going on. We've been hearing rumors of her leaving, never happening, you know. When COVID hits, Disney has a hard time. They can't keep up. Their parks are closed, revenue stream drives up, their ships are docked. They still haven't started putting them out to sea yet. And it's a big goddamn mess. Their stocks go from about 148, 152 down to $79 a share. Then they start creeping up again. You start seeing Disney borrowing money. 11 billion here, 11 billion there, 11 billion from Canada, for Christ's sakes. They're about $100 billion in debt because of this, okay? They are in massive financial chaos right now because of this COVID shit, okay? Blame our governments. Don't blame them, blame the governments. But Star Wars and Lucasfilm chaos is not helping. So they're getting ready. Mandalorian Season 2 is like going through its edits. They're all getting ready to go over the scripts for season 3. Story goes like this. Kennedy calls up Iger and says, I'd like to talk about the scripts. I'd like to meet you, whatever. Iger says, John and Dave are with George going over the scripts. Translation, they don't want your help. In fact, the word on the street was she could only send notes. She lost her shit. And this is coming from massive amounts of different places, so do not call this a hearsay rumor anymore. I do believe this happened. She said, I will end this silly nonsense, or I will burn this silly nonsense will end, or I will burn this to the ground. Last summer, Doomcock reported that a big gun from one of the big hedge funds, you know, whatever. I mean, you can name them, BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard, whatever. Somebody like that showed up at Skywalker Ranch and said, I heard that there was a different cut of The Rise of Skywalker. I'd like to see it. And what he said was, heard there was a different cut of Rise of Skywalker. And he said, is there? And they said, yes, there is. Would you like to see it? Of course. Sat down to watch it, the rough cut. Got up, walked out, very quiet. A few days later, July 3rd, Kathleen Kennedy gets told, take your stuff, bring your stuff. It's a financial meeting, okay? So she's going out to meet legal types of Al Capones, okay? No shit, serious sons of bitches. They're not, you know, Hollywood. Money floats in and out of our lives like snow. We don't have to really do anything to earn it. She goes in there. And then a memo goes out to all of Lucasfilm. Kathy is going to be leaving whenever, or something like that. It was from Lin-Wen Brennan. And it mentioned making her own company, la-di-da. You know, I believe this happened. I really, really do. And she tried to shop herself around. No one in Hollywood wanted her. Not one studio. No one came. I mean, in all of the time she's been at Lucasfilm, Where's Warner Brothers been? Don't you think they'd want to hire her away? Don't you think Universal would? Paramount? I mean, one of the big studios? Silence. Zippo. Nothing. Nada. Kind of makes you sit and go, is she really that popular? Is she really that powerful? Is she really that talented? You would think somebody else would want to grab her up. Nothing. I've heard rumors that Warner Brothers would like to get Jon Favreau for DC, but I haven't heard one about Kennedy. Not one. Think about that. Hold on to it. And so her leaving, and they blame COVID because that's a convenient thing. It kind of got jumbled. Okay, so she's like there, and she's got, in December they announce The Acolyte is being in development, and Children of Blood and Bone, aka We Hate the Cops, BLM, that's what those are her two babies. Neither of which belong at Lucasfilm because that's not what they do. Everything else, except for maybe Lando, kind of looks like it's not Kathleen Kennedy. You got Rogue Squadron, which sounds like it's a feature film being developed and worked on by Patty Jenkins, who's not after Wonder Woman 84. Kevin Feige's working on a movie. Maybe he's working on maybe he's working on Rogue Squadron. Okay. You got Taika Waititi working on a movie. But it doesn't look like Kathy's really involved in any of them. And of course, we've got the Favreauverse with Mandalorian. Oh yes, it does. You're right, Mace. Mandalorian, Rangers of the New Republic, The Book of Boba Fett, Ahsoka, and The Bad Batch, maybe some other things. Favreauverse seems like it's going. And all the while, we still get hints of this stupidity called the Stoned Republic, aka the High Republic. We didn't realize how stoned, pun intended, actually it would be. And we're going along. Mandalorian 2 comes out, and everyone's happy. We're watching. It's pretty good. I would get up at, 5:30, 6 just to watch it. And episode 16, which is the end, the finale for the season, everybody was very anticipating what Jedi was going to come. Now, I called it. I said, Luke. It's going to be Luke. It was the only one that made sense. It was the only one to make people go, and it was a character introduction that everybody should have seen in the sequel trilogy. Okay, this is the Luke Skywalker my nieces should have met. This is Luke Skywalker that everybody else who's a huge sequel trilogy fan should have met. I can't wait, if they're allowed to, see how they retcon Han and Leia. Because then then these kids will get to see the way they were supposed to be seen. Okay? The world stops spinning. I get a message from May saying, oh my God, you've got to say it. I'm paraphrasing. I'm crying. And I'm like, it's Luke. I wrote back, I told you it was Luke. I told you. And the reactions to this broke the servers at Disney. People were like watching it over and over and over again. It was probably one of the greatest moments in sci-fi fantasy ever filmed. It literally really was the return of Luke Skywalker. I mean, and the echoes of Anakin Skywalker, and it was just, Favreau was fucking awesome doing this. The funniest line was, I think it was Bo-Katan, Katie Sackhoff going, they sent one X-Wing, and Cara Dune goes, oh, one X-Wing, we're saved. It's like, I knew who it was. It's like, that's Red 5, and yes, you are saved. You have no idea. And it really just sent the Kennedy faction at Lucasfilm. What you hear behind me is my dog scratching. What the Kennedy faction at Lucasfilm shitting themselves. Okay? And that's when all this shit started. Pablo Hidalgo attacks Star Wars theory, and that was sad. I don't know why. And you know, and well, no, I do know why. It was he's jealous. He's upset. He didn't want to see. Yes, I think it will. In fact, it kind of does already. If he was out of his kennel right now, it would. You know, Hidalgo was pissed off, and he was basically the vanguard and the public image of this. You've got other people getting really pissed off, and then while this is going on, and this is where and Tom Connors said this. The stuff that's been going on didn't start. The stuff that's been going on recently didn't start until Momita Sengupta was hired to do the streaming production stuff, the money stuff that Kennedy does. Then we got more fire Gina Carano, and Gina had been fighting this shit since last summer. And then and then the High Republic shows up. And it's been mocked ever since. The High Republic is literally one of the biggest failures I've ever seen in publishing. It is, I'm going to tell you guys something. Claudia Gray admitted that she got her idea No, this is when all this stuff started. It's Kennedy has not been quiet. All right. This stuff started when Sengupta showed up. Okay. And the High Republic is getting, creamed. Okay. Claudia Gray admitted on that video that they did, like the Brady Bunch, Hollywood Squares thing, that the Zoom call, that it was her boyfriend that suggested geode, rock. Okay. Justina Ireland, her master's thesis was on microaggressions in children's literature and the fact that the woman doesn't read. And she's a writer. These are the talented creatives behind the Stoned Republic. Okay. And then Gina posts that thing about, the political issues now, citing a certain nation back in the 30s. And Kennedy goes behind Iger and Chapek's back and Favreau's back and basically puts it out there in public, because I don't really think Gina was even signed to a contract, that Gina Carano was no longer working for Lucasfilm and would never in the future. To me, it looks like she stepped over her bounds. She started and I'll tell you something, they're still feeling the backlash. Now we've got these 2 books pulled back. I don't know why. Maybe they are removing Gina, but I kind of, how are they ever going to do that with The Mandalorian? I don't know. That's just stupid. So I don't know. We can't really make any judgments, and we really don't know what's going on. So this week, everybody and God was waiting for, someone to ask about, or an announcement to be made about the status of Kathleen Kennedy. A right-wing conservative think tank or nonprofit had one of their interns or one of their young aides, and I'm going to tell you they don't make much because I did that when I first got to DC, call and ask about the blacklist. Hey, James, I'm going to tell you this. If I had been writing that question, I would not have written it the way that he did. You know, we were all, and we're like, okay, at least somebody asked it about Gina and about the double standard. And, JPEG gave what I was expecting a canned answer. Then we get into somebody else, next call, asked about firing Kathleen Kennedy. Ironically, his name is George. And ironically, and sadly for a lot of people who don't understand the context and why Chapek can't say what is really going on, Chapek said, I hope she's here for the years to come. He said, I hope. Underline that 3 times and remember that, because it's going to come back sometime down the road. He actually said nothing. Both were non-answers. Okay. He sounded really kind of, when he was talking about Kennedy. I don't think he really expected it. But I want you guys to take this away because this is big. And it's been mentioned by other YouTubers. The fact that any of this was mentioned at that investors conference, where we have people like Larry Fink, Mortimer Buckley, Ron O'Hanley, we've got Morgan Stanley, Chase, we've got Sachs, Goldman Sachs, etc., etc. Okay, that's literally Ulu Betty too. That's literally the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. You're trying to overthink this, okay? Haven't you ever seen football coaches, they fuck up, and the team says we're standing behind him, and then 3 days later he quits or is fired? That's what this is. He can't say, yes, Rupert Murdoch is still alive. You trust me, you know. And so is Ted Turner. You can't say, we had an emergency meeting on Sunday. Meetings by the board of directors that happen on Sunday are emergency meetings. Okay? Underline that 3 times. So how do you get, they met on a Sunday, she's staying from that. The emergency met to tell her she's resigned. Maybe they did. That's not logical. But okay. We could run with that. That actually comes from Doomcock, and Doomcock actually, I believe, is wrong on that. Again, context. He can't say what's going on. Now let's explain why. Because when her name was mentioned, their stocks did start to fall. Okay? Their stocks did start to fall. Now maybe if you said, Kathy's leaving in October or August or, resigning within a couple weeks, maybe that would have been the right course, but he didn't. And legally, he can't probably say anything to the contrary of what he said. All right? I don't understand the laws too much, but this is a shareholders meeting with guys that move billions of dollars. These guys are legal mafia, okay? And then you've got the smaller shareholders, okay? He can't say anything, all right? The fact that the shares are only paying 2 cents per share right now is a huge problem. That's corporate debt load, all right? So everyone starts having a conniption fit. If Chapek says, yeah, they do, James, but it's a little more complicated than that. There are contracts. There's the fact that she might have collateral against people. You know, she did threaten to burn the silly thing down to the ground before if she was ever forced out. You know, this is a woman who thinks way too highly of herself. She probably has a personality disorder of some kind. I'd say narcissistic, maybe borderline. It would be interesting to talk to people that really know her, you know. But JPEG's responsibility for the people that don't understand it are to the shareholders, the investors, the employees, to the board. He's also legally responsible, so he really can't say anything about what's going on. Okay, so he lies. He lied about everything. That's what they do at Disney. You could have them filing Chapter 11 tomorrow, and he would have been standing there going, things are fine. That's how these things work, okay? That's how they work. Now, the timeline and what's been going on recently is very interesting. Now, we know that Iger's leaving in December. And what might be happening is Kennedy knows her time is short, and she really is burning everything down to the ground. The hiring of Mohsen Gupta, the fact that she really only has a couple of things she's doing, and that her pet project, the High Republic, the publishing initiative, is a laughingstock. The fact that after Gina was told she wouldn't be coming back, the backlash has been everywhere. They had to take down the comments and likes and dislikes on her Oscar video. They're getting ratioed into oblivion on the Star Wars videos. You can't go anywhere. Disney's been getting bombarded by emails, phones. They're losing Disney Plus subscriptions. They can fudge the numbers and say they have 100 million subscribers. If you believe that, I've got oceanfront property in Iowa to sell you, okay? Or Nebraska. It's even better in Nebraska. You know, they're up the creek. Now, I'm not saying Disney's ever going to file Chapter 11, but the idea that they think they can hold on with Chinese money is laughable because the Chinese are ripping them. I know the Chinese are ripping them off. Everybody I know that has worked on big franchise movies and producing has told me the Chinese are not good business partners. Okay, if I was Chapek, I'd be looking to dissolve that partnership and get out of there. Okay, now maybe the board doesn't want him to. I'm not going to say what I've heard about Bob Chapek because I don't want him to get targeted. But he's not a fan of Kathleen Kennedy's. Trust me, she doesn't have the same connections to him. Okay, and I personally, and this is just my reading of the tea leaves, he doesn't like her. How could you? This guy's an engineer, so therefore he goes on logic and precise things. Being an engineer, just like being a businessman, businesswoman, means there are no emotions. Okay, if a woman's going to be a CEO or a president of a film studio, she should be more like, you know, I'll give you a fictional character, Miranda Priestley, or you know, Lucille Ball. Tough, no nonsense, a no shit, tough chick. Not, I mean, Kennedy is not a good businesswoman. So let's go back. We've got all this stuff going on, and it's not consistent to what we've been told before. Unless Kennedy just lost her shit. And they know she's leaving, so they're just going all out. Because they know if she goes, they go. All right? And this Mean Girl stuff with Gina Carano tells me, and I've said this before, I'll say it again, that Kennedy really is trying to hurt the Mandalorian. And it also tells me that they actually are retconning the sequel trilogy. I can't imagine Chapek liking that. and thinking it was good for the parks and good for... Chapek is an accountant. He knows that they're losing money on this. I can't believe Iger, because the High Republic was sanctioned and funded before Chapek came in. Iger allowed this to happen. I just said, what? No. No, you're not doing that. Okay, you're not. I mean, I'm not spending money, the company's money, on whatever this is. Okay, just Kathy, no. So anyway, guys, I'm gonna let you go. I was gonna be here on here for an hour, but I'm gonna tell you this. The problems going on right now, something stinks. Something doesn't feel right. At all. Something doesn't feel right. Okay? It really doesn't. And I think it's actually, it feels different than it did in 2018 when we all thought she was on her way out. When she should have been on her way out before. It feels like we've made progress. And I really think the catalyst was really Gina Carano. I can't get herky-jerky with my feelings. Okay? I can't go, oh my God, Mandalorian's dead. Star Wars is dead. He said she's staying. And then ignore everybody saying, he had to say that. What was he supposed to say? Yeah, well, the backlash we know about, hey, Wookiee supremacy. Yeah, well, the backlash we know about, la, 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 and she's fired. Stocks go down. Now, eventually they go back up, but they would be going down. They'd lose 10%. Because all the investors would be going, what the fuck is going on at Lucasfilm? Okay? You can't, and again, like I said, there are legal problems too. You can't just start talking about her like that. Her lawyers will go after him. Okay? She's not a clever person. I don't think her maturity has gone beyond high school, to be honest. People like that have to constantly pick and knit and can't behave rationally in a business setting, in a professional setting, don't belong there. Okay? I know too many like that, and it's usually women. And there are catty men too, but it's usually women. So anyway, I gotta go. I'm gonna go check some things, and it's a beautiful day out. Maybe, and actually no wind, so maybe we'll do this. Poof. I'll see you around the galaxy, gang. Have a good one.